This is the Hout 42 T16 Hitbox. It ships with gamer finger mechanical buttons. It has this little OLED screen up here that pretty much tells you the status of everything going on inside. It has a Raspberry Pi inside running the GP2040 CE software, which you should be very excited for, by the way. I'll tell you why in a little bit. It's powered by USB-C, not some weird like proprietary cable you got to order from the company and then wait like 2 weeks for it to show up. It's just USB-C. You can go down to a gas station or to your local Best Buy and get a USB-C. It's like a phone charger. It's housed in this very nice acrylic case. It seems to be like two pieces of acrylic screwed together, held together by like, I don't know, what, 8 screws, something like that. You unscrew it, it comes apart. It's 2 little pieces. You can put artwork in it. It's really nice, and it's very dense. You know, it's pretty heavy for its size. It also comes with some of the greatest documentation I've ever seen for any controller, period. We'll get into that a little bit later. But most excitingly, this thing cost $75. First of all, let's talk about what you interface with the most, which are the buttons. These are mechanical buttons, which are far superior to Sanwa buttons, in my opinion, for hitbox purposes. Like, Sanwas are great for slapping and getting like the feedback from it and everything like that. But when you're using them for movement, mechanical buttons are way better just because they're far more responsive, which is very important when you're using them for movement, and you're using them a lot more than attack buttons. And you'll feel the difference if you try some mechanical buttons. And becoming much more cost efficient. Like, I remember before when I got my gamer finger buttons, they were like super expensive. Gamer fingers are still really expensive just because there's like a scarcity of them. But other brands like I think the Crown 202s and like the Quamba Gravities, they're becoming a lot more affordable. You should try them out if you can. Or if you go to an event and you see a booth, go try them out. They're really nice. The switches inside of here, if I pop one of these off, are Calith low profile reds. I've never tried these switches before. In my gamer fingers and all the other mechanical buttons, I have speed silvers, MX Cherry speed silvers, and I've never tried any Calith switches. I have cherry reds in my keyboards too, but so far, they don't feel like significantly different. I'm not a guy who feels the difference in switches very much, and if I do feel the difference in a switch, it's probably because it's bad, right? Like if you use blues, for example, the really loud, like clickety ones, then you'll notice it. But these, you don't notice at all. They're very responsive, but also very quiet, like almost silent. The most you'll hear is like this, if you can hear that, right? It's not anything crazy. The plungers themselves, though, are actually 30 millimeters. So in most hitboxes, in all hitboxes that I own, they're 24 because they fit around your finger a lot better when they're 24. These are 30. So they're like the attack buttons on a normal fight stick, which has some drawbacks. Like for me, I don't like it. I do not like the 33 or the 30 millimeter buttons. I really prefer the 24s. And that's just because the 30s have so much more surface area that it feels really unnatural. And because they have so much more surface area, the buttons are a lot closer together. When you have this many buttons on a stick, you start to feel it a little bit. There's an adjustment period to getting used to the bigger buttons. Also, the fact that they're 30, I'm not sure if this is why, but there's a lot more play in them. Like if you do this, like you do a little circle on these plungers, you feel it move around a lot more. So when you're resting your hand on it, like when you're trying to move around, you feel them move a little bit, and I don't like it very much. I much prefer 24 millimeters, but that's really the only complaint that I have for the buttons on this thing. The menu buttons up here are really nice. They're not as nice as like the Punk's Workshop ones, which those buttons on the menu are incredible. I don't know why they put so much effort into them, but those buttons are pretty incredible. But they're way better than the Junk Food Arcades ones, which are like these 3D printed little nubs that start digging into your fingers over time. These are just much better than those, and I like them. It even has a turbo button up here. I haven't mess with that at all. I just noticed it. But yeah, and they're also, if you look really closely, see all the labels, like even on the menu buttons are labeled, but the labels on the buttons themselves correspond to PlayStation and Xbox, which is really good if you play offline and you play on PC and then you go to an offline event that's run on the PS5 and it's like, you know, press R3 or like L2 or something to get through the menu, and you're like, I have no idea. Like I've literally pulled up Google images of the controllers or like the PDF manual of my controller to figure out what button to press when I like sit down at a new console, because I'm used to playing on PC and I played a little bit on PS4 and Street Fighter 5, but now that we're on the PS5, it's a different animal. I have to get used to these buttons again, the menu buttons. Let's talk about the elephant in the room. That's all these little extra buttons, like the one up here and over here and down here. To be honest with you, I don't use them at all. I think they're like mouse 1, mouse 2, L3, R3. This one up here is an extra jump button. The only reason I got them is because the company, Hout, only had this model, the T16, in stock to send me. And they did send this to me, by the way. I should mention that. They sent it to me with the only directive being like, we want feedback on the product. And I honestly, I honestly ignored them for the first 3 weeks. They sent me an email like at the beginning of December, at the end of November, and I ignored it because I thought this thing was too good to be true, like to exist because of all the features it has and the price point being $75. I was like, there's no way these guys are sending these products out. I thought they would send me one and then you guys would order it and they wouldn't send it to you guys. I thought it was a scam, to be honest with you. And then I waited a few weeks and I started to see other like fight stick content creators get theirs. I said, okay, I'll wait a little bit longer because maybe they just got theirs. And then I started seeing them pop up on like our fight sticks and on Twitter, and like my friends telling me about them. I was like, okay, I'll respond to the email and I'll try it out. So they didn't tell me what to say or to say anything good about the thing. They just sent it to me. And so far I'm pleasantly surprised with it. Just wanted to be transparent about that. And speaking of being transparent, let's talk about this acrylic case. So it seems to be like two pieces of acrylic just screwed together. You can kind of see it there. You see there's like 8 screws. It's very sturdy and surprisingly heavy. Like it has some heft to it in your lap. I thought at first when I got it that it would just float in my lap and then like fall off because it doesn't have any non-slip padding. But it sits in your lap because of the weight very well. And also there might be a coating on this, like a non-slip coating or something like that, but it does not like travel down your lap as you're sitting in your chair. It actually sticks to my clothes really well and sticks to my legs really well, which is something that I've had an issue with in the past with other Hitbox controllers, is that I've had to DIY my own solutions, like put 3M padding on the back of it and like felt on the back of it so it doesn't slide down my lap. But whatever coating is on this thing works extremely well. Also housed within the case is that little OLED screen right there, which shows you what mode it's in. See, it says X input. If you change to PlayStation, it'll say like PS4 or PS5, or it'll say Switch or whatever. And next to it is like the model, the T16. And then next to that, I don't know what the DP means, but next to it is SOCD-N, which is the SOCD mode I'm in. So I'm in up plus down equals neutral, which is the CPT ruling. This is like one of those little things that I wouldn't have bought to put on my own stick, like if I was building one, because I just thought it was unnecessary. But it's actually like surprisingly useful for setup, because usually when you switch through all the different modes like PlayStation and all that, I open joy.cpl on Windows so that I can see what Windows is reading it as. But this little screen just tells you straight up as soon as you plug it in what mode you're in and if everything is set up right. It's very useful. It's a handy little convenient tool, and I'm sure it doesn't cost that much to install. Now, to get a little bit into the software behind this thing, it has a Raspberry Pi Pico 2040 inside, which is like overclocked to have less than like 1 ms input delay. Like, it's crazy, okay? There's some crazy stuff in this thing, but that like Raspberry Pi Pico is actually the heart of most of these hitboxes that you're seeing pop up on like Twitter and Etsy and AliExpress. Like a lot of these, one guy making a hitbox that's really cool in his garage or whatever, it's mostly powered by this same setup, and it's running GP2040 CE, which is an open source software that gives you compatibility with like PlayStation 4 and PS3 and PC and Windows and Switch and Android and iOS and all this stuff. It's really cool. I'm going to link that down in the description below if you want to check it out, maybe build a stick for yourself with this same setup. But when you use that software, you can use their web configurator to like set everything that you could ever want on this stick. So you don't have to do like all the little button combinations if you don't want to. It's actually really cool, and it's a lot better than some of the other solutions that other companies are using. I'm gonna hop into that configurator right now and show you what I'm talking about. So before you can go to that web configurator, you have to hold the start button and then plug in the stick, and then the little screen, the little OLED screen will look like this. It'll say it's in web config mode. And then once you've done that, you can open up the web configurator. So this is what it looks like. To get here, you'll do http://192.168.7.1 just in your web browser. And if everything's set up correctly, this will pop up and you can change pretty much everything. You can even reboot the stick. You can reboot the Raspberry Pi inside. You can reset everything. You can configure all of this stuff. You can change your input mode, your D-pad mode. You can change your SOCD. You can do all of this. This, I don't have a function button map, so I can't like set any macros, but you can do all of this stuff within the web configurator. This is a way better solution than like the Junk Food Arcades app, which is, listen, I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt. I haven't used it in a long time. Maybe they fixed it. But when I was using it, that thing was garbage. Like it froze all the time. If you wanted to change anything, you had to keep restarting the app. Sometimes it just didn't work. It would connect to the stick and it'd be like, okay, we're connected, but nothing's happening. So you got to restart it again. It was just not a good solution. So this is a very welcome change for me. I really like the web configurator, and I can use this on any stick that uses GP 2040 CE software, right? So I can use it on this one, and I can use it on the Punk's Workshop stick that I have. As far as compatibility with like the PS4 and PS5 timeout issues, so if you have a non-licensed controller that you plug into a PlayStation, it will work for 8 minutes and then it will time out. If you want to avoid that, you can upload validation files, which I think if you go to the Hout website, they can help you with that. Or you can use a Brooks converter, which I have. I use like a little $65 Wingman Brooks converter just because I have so many PS4 sticks that needed it. So I bought it, and it works pretty well. I'm going to do some further testing though when I go to my local next month and take this and the Punk's Workshop one and try those with the Brooks converter just to make sure they work properly, because it works fine with all the other sticks, but I haven't really tried it with a Raspberry Pi one yet, even though I've heard that it works fine. And I've seen people use them at my local fine. I just haven't tried it myself. Now, lastly, for the most exciting part, and you might see me glance up at my monitor behind my camera a lot because I wrote a script out for this. I got a little professional with this, but I have a lot to say on the documentation that came with this thing because it is phenomenal. It is by far my favorite part of the stick. As somebody who's like an enthusiast at this point, owns many of these sticks, documentation is one of the hardest things to come by, especially if you buy a stick that is from an international seller. Like the Punk's Workshop stick came in an envelope with nothing. It came with no documentation, didn't tell me what was inside, didn't tell me what the buttons were, didn't tell me what software it was running, didn't tell me how to update the damn thing. I'm looking through 16 PDF files in 4 different languages, translating shit, clicking on links, downloading files, like just trying to figure out how to use this $220 Punk's Workshop hitbox that I bought. This thing shows up, $75. It's got a page of every single thing I need, and on the back of the case, it's printed. All the modes, all the input modes are printed on the back of the stick. Why has nobody thought of that before? It's really good. Like 10 out of 10 from whoever's job this was to do all the documentation for this thing. You did a great job. I mean, even the various Junk Food Arcades products that I have, and I need to warn you as a consumer, do not buy the first run of any of those sticks. I've been burned 3 times. I bought the first run of 3 of their sticks, the Micro XL, and then the LBX. The Micro showed up. It was fine. It just had micro USB. If I waited a few months, I would have got USB-C. The Micro XL shows up, and it's PS4 compatible. If I waited a few months, I would have got the PS5 compatible one for like a $44 difference. Now, if I want to upgrade my PS4 Micro XL with a new PCB for PS5, it's like $135 when the price difference is only $44. So it just doesn't make sense for me to do so. I think the worst offender, though, has to be the LBX, which is their Smashbox controller. It showed up with a faulty PCB because, of course, I ordered the first run again. I'm impatient. I buy the first run. It shows up, faulty PCB. The PCB can't be flashed with the code that it needs to because, like, I didn't know what I was getting myself into when I bought the thing. It shows up. They're like, here's all these files you need. Here's how you flash it. Here's a tutorial. You need to download C#. You need to get in here. It's like, bro, I don't know what I'm doing. So I'm like panicking because I've got this $200 paperweight. I finally figure it out. It's loading up. It says downloading. Failed. So I got to get on the Discord. I got to figure out what they're doing. I got to talk to the mods. And then they're like, the PCB is faulty. We're going to ship you guys a new one. The new one comes in. I install it. I install all the software, flash with all this code, and it works. It was just a lot of work for a $200 product, right? It became like a DIY situation, and just a lot of work on the end user that I wasn't expecting, which might partially be my fault for buying the first edition. That's all to say, though. I went off on a tangent. That's all to say, though, that like their app was like really bad, and the documentation is all lives on like their Discord and all this stuff. I just really can't stress how nice it is to have it all in a sheet of paper, in plain English right in front of me. I really appreciate that. As far as comparing this controller to any of the ones that I have in my closet, the LBX, the Micro, the other Micro, the Victrix is in there, the 2 hitboxes I have, it's hard to compare it to any of those because of the value proposition. It's $75, and it competes with $250 to $400 products. It's punching way above its weight. Like the Hitbox Arcade controller. I picked on Junk Food enough. Let's pick on Hitbox Arcade a little bit. The Hitbox Arcade controller is $250, and I cannot say that it's 3.3 times better than this controller. I mean, for God's sake, it's a $250 product shipping with the same compatibility as this, worse buttons, a bulkier case, which, you know, to be fair, you might want a bulkier case. It's more like a normal fight stick. Maybe that's something you want. Maybe that's a feature. But to configure that thing is a nightmare. I mean, when the SOCD ruling came out, the CPT one where they needed down plus up to be neutral, they wrote a fucking manifesto, and then I had to download like a Brooks installer from, it should look like it was from 2015, and it finally gave me hotkeys to reset training mode for that thing, and like SOCD settings, and a lot of people don't talk about this. It might be unique to mine. I don't know. But when you unplug it and replug it back in, it resets the SOCD. So you have to manually reset your SOCD to what you want it to be every time you unplug and replug it back in. And don't even get me started on the Victrix. It is not 5.3 times better than this thing, okay? And I'm saying that because this is $75. That thing is $400. It's not 5.3 times better than the Hout. And that, again, ships with Sandwall buttons and the same software issues. It's incredible. It really is incredible that I didn't pay $400 for that thing, to be fair. Okay, don't yell at me in the comments. I traded some parts for that thing. It's just incredible that thing is $400. All I can say though, and I can say all this confidently because I own all of these sticks. I have 3 junk food arcade. Like I said, I have like 6 sticks in there, and it's like $1,200 worth of product in my closet just lying dormant because this stick and the Punk's Workshop one like are vastly superior in my opinion. Like they just aren't even in the same league. These feel like the next generation of Hitbox controllers to me, right? To me personally, these two just feel like the next generation of Hitbox controllers. They're sleeker, they're nicer, they're more comfortable, the buttons are better, the software is better, it's more configurable, it's more user friendly. It's just a better product, and I can't recommend it enough. $75. That's a PS5 controller, and you get all this for $75. But yeah, this is the Hout 42 T16. The T13 just takes off all those extra buttons, and it's a little bit cheaper. If you want to check out all the products that they have, you can go to hout42.com and then click where to buy at the top, and it'll show you like where to buy based on your location in the world. I think AliExpress is global, and then like they have it on Amazon for the US and Canada and stuff. Anyways, hope you enjoyed. If you did, please consider subscribing, and I'll talk to you again real soon.